Today I'm going to go over 5 presentation shortcuts in Trial Director. So if you've been working in Trial Director for any amount of time, you've had some issues getting the exhibits up and looking the exact way that you want them to. And today I'm going to go over a couple of those tips. They're in no particular order, but 5 things that either I forgot when I was originally trained in Trial Director back in 2010, or things that were new that I didn't necessarily get trained on back when I learned about them. And here they are in no particular order. Tip 0. I guess is the first thing I do as soon as I sit down in the courtroom or wherever I'm presenting in, is when I turn on Trial Director, I then will turn on the presentation screen. No matter what I have, I'll just put in a blank exhibit. That second window always takes a little bit to load up, and so I want to make sure that that's up and ready before I need to put any exhibits in here. And then if a toolbar shows up, I always hit Alt-T and get rid of it. That's kind of tool 0. The first thing that I'll do is I'll put in an exhibit into the presentation window. Let's do that now, and let's just put in this JTX1, and let's put it in there. Let's get it presented. Now you probably all know about being able to blind type an exhibit, so I'm just going to blind type that JTX001, the first page in. Now let's say I have a call out and I want to look at this patent, for example. Once I have it called out, I can resize a call out. So that's tip number 1. So I can move this around, and if I mouse over to the lower right hand corner, I can grab it and get a little bit more or a little bit less depending on what I need. So that's the first thing. A lot of times I see people when they're first using Trial Director, they try to make the call out, or they really struggle over how big to make that rectangle before they let go of their mouse. You can just make the shape however you need to make the shape, and then resize it once it's already up there because you have that resize capability. That's a killer feature. It just makes your life so much simpler when you can do that. Tip number 2 is related to the first one, and it's the ability to skew or kind of morph the call out once you have it made. So let's say in a patent case, this typically happens where I have 2 different sections of a page that I need to pull up at the same time, and the attorney wants them both, even if it means making them a little bit squished or stretched in order to make things fit the page as big as I can. So let's say I want to deal with this again, the Otterbeck patent, or at least just the name of the patent. If I hold down Shift and go to that same corner that we were just in, I can now resize it to make it a little bit bigger, and then I can go back to my original document. Let's say I want to pull up the abstract, and then I can make that a lot bigger too. It looks a little bit goofy, and ultimately it's a matter of preference if you like this or not. But I just have some kind of idiosyncratic clients that just want the text bigger, and they want it to fill the page regardless of the physics of screen size. And so this is kind of usually what makes them happy. And to do that, just hold down Shift and go to that bottom right hand corner and resize it that way. Let's clear that exhibit now. I'll hit Escape to clear it. And let's go back to my preview window. And I'll go to this same exhibit, but let's go to page 7 now. And I'm going to drop it in. And let's say I accidentally dropped it in to the wrong corner. Now remember, Trial Director has zones. So you have like the right, the left, top, bottom, and then the 4 corners, and then the middle. And the way that I was taught, by the way, the person who taught me, Ben, at Trial Director, he has moved on to another position. He's been with them for like about a decade, if not longer. So I wanted to just wish him well while we're on the subject of training. But the way that Ben taught me how to do this was you have to hit a series of function keys, right? And so the upper left-hand corner, I think, is F5. Then you hit F10, that's telling Trial Director that you want to move something. And then you hit where you want to move it, and then the main middle area is F9. So I would hit F5, F10, F9, and that moves the exhibit to the center of the page. To move it back, I could hit F9, F10, and then F5 to move it to that corner. Let's switch over to like the presentation window and kind of do the same thing there. I'll hit Present Preview, and now I've got the same thing on my jury screen. The shortcut here is, and this is where also a lot of early users of Trial Director get tripped up. They get freaked out because the thing keeps getting dropped into the wrong zone. They have to hit Escape, then go click and drag and drop it back over again, and that always takes time, and then attorneys are getting mad and people are getting yelled at, or at least getting dirty looks. The way you can do it is there's all these secret hover over buttons in Trial Director, and above the upper right hand side of any exhibit there are 3 buttons. If you click and drag on the middle button, and you can then move it to whatever zone you want. So let's click and drag in the middle button from the upper left hand side, and then move it kind of towards the middle of the screen, and as soon as I release, then the exhibit gets bigger. So that has saved me on countless occasions, and usually it happens most frequently whenever I have like weird screen resolution issues. A lot of times if I'm going into a vendor setup that's not like a standard federal courthouse and they've got like some daisy chain stuff going on and I have to set my screen resolutions funny, then wherever I exactly like release my mouse is never exactly where I think it is. It's always off for some reason by a couple of pixels, and sometimes I'll end up in the right zone rather than the middle, so I end up using this quite a bit. Now, the last two things are also kind of related, and we'll go back to the main trial director window to look at that. And I'll go to JTX 17. This is actual JTX exhibits from a trial I worked on previously. The matter has been resolved. But this one I like because it's particularly long. It's the file wrapper. It's almost 1,000 pages. Not that it can't be 1,000 pages. It could be even longer. But this was an exhibit that we came to again and again and again as we were talking about the file history of this patent. And people would frequently just give me page numbers from the file wrapper. They wouldn't say JTX 17 and give me a page number. They might just shout out some numbers from the file history. And so what I would do typically if I didn't know exactly what they were talking about, if they were saying, let's go to like the August 5th office action letter, then what I would do is I know that they're talking about the file history, and I'll just show them page 1 of Exhibit 17, and that'll give them a cue, and like a non-verbal cue that I need a page number. Usually by the end of the trial, I kind of remember all those things and I've got those all sorted out. But at least in the beginning, for attorneys that don't normally work with hot seaters, it might take them a little bit of time to kind of get that completely nailed down. But in any event, you might have a specific exhibit that you come to over and over again that you just want to make it a little bit faster to get to. One of the things you can do is just right click on the exhibit and go to edit. And then from there, you can put in the description field information that's useful for you. So if they're calling something file history and you didn't know that, that's what that is when you got to this case, or if they're calling something like the consult records for a physician or something like that, you can put a description. That's for you to know. A lot of times I'll take the descriptions from the exhibit list and put those in the description fields, so that way we're all talking about the same thing. We also have two additional fields over here on the right. There's trial exhibit number and exhibit number. It doesn't strictly have to be a trial exhibit number versus exhibit number. This is just a place where you can put unique page identifiers, whether they're bait stamps, trial exhibit numbers, or whatever you want to call them in here. And so one of the things that I might do, if it's called file wrapper, I know we're going to use it a lot, I might say FW for file wrapper and call it that. And then I might also mess around with the item IDs. So if you don't see the ability to click into the item ID itself, like the unique identifier that trial director gave it, come up to the documents menu and make sure that enable item ID field editing is on. That way when I get to something like JTX 17, I can come in here on the first page, hit edit, and in here, instead of having JTX 0017, I can just make it 17 if I wanted to. So now it's just called 17, and I also gave it that nickname of FW, remember that? And so now I can come into either the presentation preview window, or I can come all the way over to my jury screen, and I can type in 17, enter, and the exhibit will pop up, or let's clear it by hitting escape. I can type in FW and put it in that way. And so whether I do a shortcut name, an abbreviated file name, I can call it whatever I want. That's a way that I kind of have thumbnailed my most frequently used exhibit. So that's something that I do. The other reason why I might do something like that for an exhibit this large, that's like 1,000 pages or longer, is because once you're in the exhibit, then it makes it really easy to get within the exhibit very quickly. So let's say someone's saying, I want something from the file history. Let's go to page 492. Rather than me having to twirl down exhibit 17, scroll down to number 42, I can just type in 17, enter, get to the first page, and then hit Control G to go to a specific page, and then what did I say, 419? Type it in, and then we're right there. And then if that's not exactly the right page, maybe they're like go up a page or down, I use page up to go up, page down to go down, and quickly find my way through the exhibit. So other ways of quickly getting to places without having to fumble around and make people wait. And so what I typically find is, in terms of making people feel like you're being really responsive and quick and speed up your workflow, is to give people something. When people don't see anything, or then they're waiting, it feels like an eternity and people feel like it's taking forever. But if they see the first page of exhibit 17 and then they say, now give me page 412. I can go Control G, 412, enter, and it's right there. And then this is also why I really like having the number pad, is because then I have the numbers really quick with discrete page up, page down. I don't want to have to hit function to get page up, page down, or home or end, which gives me to the beginning of the document or to the end of the document. Because if someone's like, it's the last page or the second to last page, I can hit end and then go up a page. That's something that I'll usually do. That's all I have for today. Just wanted to give you some quick tips. I have a little bit of a lower angle today because I wanted to show you some of the keyboard stuff. In the future, let me know in the comments if you think it'll be more helpful if I do an overhead of the keyboard, or if you just want to, if this is okay. I don't kind of like the looking up angle, but I just feel like this is the only way to really show you what I'm doing at the same time as I'm showing you what's going on the different screens. So let me know if this is working for you guys, or if you're like, this is too disorienting, bring me up a little bit so we can look kind of more eye to eye. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions about any of these 5 tips or about Trial Director in general, this is version 6.8, by the way, not 360. If you have any questions about Trial Director in general, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'd love to talk to you guys down there.